When the first strikes hit Tehran on February 28th, the world's cameras immediately turned to the sky. We watched the vapor trails and the orange glows of interceptors. We debated the strategy of generals and the rhetoric of politicians. But beneath that sky, a silent, massive shift began. One involving not soldiers, but what I call the unseen masses of the Middle East. These are the millions of migrant laborers and domestic workers whose lives are the invisible gears of the regional economy, from the construction sites of Riyadh to the hospital wards of Kuwait. These workers are the backbone of the modern world, and today those gears are being ground to dust. While many of us track troop movements on digital maps, we ignore the human labor corridors that define the lives of millions. Human Rights Watch reports that the conflict has left migrant workers across the Gulf in a state of perilous limbo. Think of the delivery drivers, the nurses, the construction and utilities workers, service workers from the Philippines, Pakistan, and India. They keep these modern cities running, often at great sacrifice. But now, as Relief Web and the International Rescue Committee report, shipping rates have skyrocketed by over 300%. Businesses are suffocating, and they're passing that pain down to those with the least protection. We see migrants being forced into unpaid leaves, being told to go home by employers who have long ago seized their passports, and then being forced to pay for housing and airfare at a time when flight paths are closed and tickets unaffordable. According to reports from the border, over 6,700 workers fled into Pakistan in just the first 2 weeks of March. These aren't just refugees. They are the primary breadwinners for families thousands of miles away. When their work stops, the lights go out in villages from Punjab to Manila. To understand why this conflict is a broader Asian tragedy as much as a Middle Eastern one, we have to look at the remittance lifeline. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar, remittance is simply the money sent home by a worker abroad. But in villages across India, Pakistan, the Philippines, and Bangladesh, this isn't just pocket change. It's the entire foundation of their survival. According to the World Bank, remittances often account for more than 10 to 20% of the total GDP in these four nations alone. When the conflict in Iran and the surrounding region escalates, that global artery is effectively severed. In rural Pakistan and the Philippines, remittance money is what pays for school fees. When a father in the Gulf is put on unpaid leave because of wartime shipping disruptions, his children are pulled from the classroom within the month. Private clinics in South Asia often operate on a cash basis. Without the monthly transfer from a nurse in Kuwait or a laborer in Iran, elderly parents lose access to life-saving medications and basic care. Most of these unseen masses take out high-interest loans just to afford the visa and travel costs to work in the Middle East. With the war stalling their income, Human Rights Watch warns of a secondary debt crisis. These workers now facing the loss of their family homes back home because they cannot service the interest on those initial loans. When we talk about economic disruption, we aren't just talking about the price of gas in America. We're talking about the total collapse of the social safety net for millions of people who have never stepped foot on a battlefield. As the International Labor Organization notes, when the Middle East stops working, the heart of the global South stops beating. And the regular families of the Middle East are not just statistics, they are collateral damage of a collapsing infrastructure. As of early May, verified civilian deaths in Iran have surpassed 1,700, including, tragically, at least 254 children. The International Organization for Migration and the Baker Institute now estimate that over 3 million Iranians alone are internally displaced. They are fleeing the cities for the rural north, carrying their lives in plastic bags, and hunger is spreading. The World Food Program warns that this disruption could push 45 million more people into acute food insecurity. The math of this war is a moral indictment. The UN humanitarian chief recently pointed out that the $25 billion spent on just the first 2 months of this conflict could have covered the entire global humanitarian aid appeal for the year. Every missile fired is a school not built, and every drone launched a hospital that remains empty of medicine. So we have to ask ourselves, why is it so easy for the American public to look the other way? And the answer is uncomfortable. It is rooted in a documented surge of Islamophobia and anti-Asian sentiment that serves as a shield against empathy. Research from groups like CARE show that when the victims fit a certain racialized profile, the American media narrative shifts from tragedy to inevitability. By framing the Middle East as a monolith of ancient animosities or extremism, the humanity of the domestic worker, the school teacher, the grandmother, the child, the pregnant mother, the hardworking father is erased. We stop seeing people and we only see instabilities. This othering creates a psychological buffer that allows us to eat dinner while watching cities burn on our TikTok feed. If we convince ourselves that the people suffering are culturally different or used to the violence, their pain simply becomes a footnote rather than an atrocity. And anti-Asian sentiment specifically targets the millions of South and East Asian migrants who are caught in the crossfire, treating them as nothing more than disposable collateral in a civilizational struggle. This war is not just a battle for regional power. It is a wrecking ball swung through the homes of the poor. It is a war on the worker, a war on the family, and a war on the very idea of our shared humanity. Until we acknowledge that these unseen masses, the drivers, the mothers, the migrants, the builders, the artists, are the ones paying for this war in both blood and hunger, we aren't simply observers. By staying silent and allowing our prejudice to dictate our impact, we're choosing to let these ghost caravans march on alone. As always, I'm JJ Hastings, and I'll see you in the next one.